Hello, fellow Voyagers. Jess here with Odyssey Human, here today to talk about dare to put yourself first. Here's the key. Welcome to the channel. This is the place where we help you hack through the jungles of consciousness so that you can discover the hidden treasures inside of you. And there are so many treasures. If that sounds good to you, please subscribe. We'd love to have you. And brand new announcement, I am reopening coaching. I have not been doing coaching for quite a while, at least over a year and a half. I am reopening coaching. If you want to grab a session with me, get some assistance, either on manifesting, emotional mastery, any of the topics that I talk about in my videos, the link is below in the description box, and I would love to talk to you. So, let's talk about daring to put yourself first. And this builds on a video that I did a few weeks ago of the only video you need to understand manifesting. So if you haven't already seen that one, check it out first. It gives you a great foundation. But remember, there's only two games we can be playing. We can either be playing the 3D game or we can be playing the manifesting game. They each have different rules. The 3D game is very linear. Things work in a certain way. We often have to put a lot of effort into them. In the manifesting game, the only rule we have to remember is that all states and realities are accessible to us at all times, right? I likened it to terracotta warriors. As if that's the only thing you ever remember about manifesting, you're gonna be a whiz at it. And today's video is going to build upon that concept, because when things seem to be going wrong, that is when this rule is very, very important. Because you can dare to put yourself first. You can dare to stand in that version of you that has what they want, is going to get what they want, guaranteed to get what they want, and be it despite whatever crap is happening in 3D. And I'm going to give you an example of how I did this and what it looked like and what I was experiencing in just a couple moments. But the key, what is the key to daring to put ourselves first? The key is, and I'm going to explain this in a couple different ways so that you can really get a tangible sense of what it is. It is transcending our own expectations. This is the key, transcending our own expectations. Our minds are predictive. Our brains are a predictive organ. And in the book, How Emotions Are Made by Feldman Barrett, one of my favorite books on emotional mastery, she talks about how, we're not receiving sensory data and then processing it, and our brains are too slow for that. So we use prediction to anticipate what's coming in life. And that prediction then is how we filter. So 90% of what we are experiencing is what we are predicting we're going to experience. That last 10% is new sensory information. And so as we're going through our day, things are exactly what we expect. We're kind of running on autopilot. And it's that 10% of new data that kind of wakes us up out of our routines, our mental patterns, our typical mindset, and is like, oh, I didn't see that coming. It wakes us up. And this is called prediction error. When your brain encounters a piece of data that does not fit with its prediction, it's called prediction error. But that's also where surprise, delight, and, pretty much every emotion comes in, because things aren't going as we expected. Our brains, this was a safety mechanism, our brains developed to use this as a way to, learning. We learn so that we can predict better. And so we can better navigate the world. We can be more successful. Things go as we planned. And so that prediction error is really where the magic happens and where the trauma and the drama happen in the prediction error. And so what we want to do is that we're often really quick when we get this prediction error, when our brain initially gets this data, it's like, that's not what I was expecting. We're quick to judge it as things aren't going my way, right? Things aren't going my way. Oh my gosh, because whatever is happening in 3D isn't fitting into our story framework. So let's bring this back to dare to put ourselves first. So how do we transcend this whole process that I've just described, right? This is what appears to be, by science, the natural order of things. How do we transcend it as manifestors, as creators? We dare to stand. So remember, let's return to the manifesting game. All states are accessible to us at all times. So just because that 90% of our brain, of our mind, is predicting a certain path, right? We're on this very linear path, and we think that there's only a few more, there's only a few of those terracotta warriors, of those potentials of us that are really accessible to us on any given day. Oh, I know, I wake up, I eat breakfast, I go to work, I do this, I pick up the kids, these are the normal versions of us. But really, that whole sea, the breadth of your potential is always there. And so we put ourselves first by picking a version of us that we want, based on our desire. I want to have an amazing day. I want to be a millionaire today. I want to be in love with life. I want everything to be working out for me perfectly. We stand in that. We pick that version of us who sees that way, believes that way, feels that way, trusts that that is true, knows that that is true, and wants to perceive reality as that version. And then we stand in that so resolutely, so firmly, because that's who we are, right? It's who we are. That version of us is the one that feels the best. And so we continue to put ourselves first when the path to get there, some can call it the bridge of incidents, the how, right? They tell us, don't worry about the how, just keep the end in mind. And I'm going to tell you the same thing. When you dare to put yourself first, you dare to stand in that reality where this is what's true for me. This is what's happening. I don't care what the 3D is showing me, what path it's taking me on, because my destination, who I am already, who I am on a core foundational level, is this version that has it, that is being it. And I'm not going to judge the outside appearances of how I'm getting there as anything else, as evidence that I'm actually not that person, that I'm over here somewhere else. It's like a GPS, right? Your only job, your only conscious job is to hold the end in mind. The task of our unconscious mind is to get us there. It's the software calculating the route, right? And all we have to do, we just have to hold firm on that destination. And what happens when we try to override the GPS and we're like, oh, it says to go that way, but I know a shortcut. And then we realize the road is closed that day, or there's horrible traffic, or we're like, oh, I should have listened to the GPS. I should have just let it guide me. And what magic, what better way to appreciate and be grateful for and enjoy that the fact that all we have to do is be the one to put in the address at the end. Like, that's all we got to do. We don't have to figure out, we don't have to know everything that's happening and calculate the best route and the shortest route and the fastest route or whatever. We don't have to do that. How beautiful and effortless is that? Like, wow, that's really awesome. Thank you, subconscious mind. Thank you for doing that work for me, because I'm sure it's, the there's a lot of complication in that, right? And that's what we encounter when we try to override and take over the job of the subconscious and try to get there faster or influence the outcome and so dare to put yourself first. And again, how do we do this when everything in the 3D is going to hell? And it feels like the GPS is taking us down this narrow back alley, right? And we're like, this isn't the way there. And the GPS is it's just chugging along. So how do we do this? How do we dare to put ourselves first? We remember, again, go back to the manifesting game. The only rule you have to remember is that all states and realities are available to you at all times, at all times. So we start to transcend our own expectations, right? Our own predictions, because we're predicting based on how things went in the past. We're predicting that, if someone doesn't show up for a meeting, that means that we're not worthy or we're not a good person. And that doesn't have to mean that at all. Maybe it means that they didn't have cell service or something happened or they simply forgot. We dare to put ourselves first when we are firm on that end destination. So let me give you a story from my life of how I did this. One of my greatest manifestations. When I was a senior in college, I was valedictorian of my high school. I just knew of myself that I would go to an Ivy League school. At the last minute, March of my senior year, I had applied to 3 schools that my parents and I had gone and we checked them out and visited and done all the, prospective student tours and all of that and talked to counselors, put a lot of time and effort into these 3 schools that I had choice picked out. 2 of them sent me rejection letters. The last one that I actually it was kind of my backup option. I did get accepted to it. And I remember this really teary conversation when the acceptance letter came and my parents were like, we can't afford to send you here. Either you go and you pay your own way and get a job and, you're going to have this much debt, or you come up with a different option. I was devastated. I was absolutely, and see, this is where there was a choice where I could adjust my GPS and say, this didn't work out for me. I didn't get into the schools that I thought I was going to. Or I could remember that all realities are available to me and all I have to do is hold firm on the destination of my choice. I unknowingly, because I didn't know about manifesting at the time, all I knew of myself was that I was going to an Ivy League school and I was not going to be in debt. I just knew that. There was no question. I wasn't doing affirmations or, scripting or any of this. I just knew it of myself. And believe me, I dared to put myself first. I dared to stand in that knowing of I'm going to an Ivy League school. I'm not going to be in debt. And there was an even smaller knowing of, and this is going to happen this year. There's no way I'm going to wait a year or take a gap year. I mean, that was an option, right? That I could have adjusted, again, my destination on my GPS and said, well, I'll try again. I'll take a year off and try this again. But when we dare to put ourselves first, it doesn't matter what the 3D is showing us. Right? The 3D was showing me I didn't get into the schools I want. I couldn't afford to go to the one that I wanted to, that I could go to. And that it was already March. There was no way I was going to get accepted in time. Or so I thought. But I stood in that conviction. That was me. That I dared to put myself first. I'm like, this is happening. And not in a way that I just knew it of myself. I remember going to the library and thumbing through a catalog of schools and just looking. I just felt compelled to go to the library and look through, there was a huge, thick book of universities and colleges that were listed. And what happened was, as I was thumbing through, I had this voice in my head was like, get outside of the box. Get outside of the box. And that's the same advice I'm going to give to you. Get outside of your own box. Remember that all states of consciousness, all realities are available to you at all times. So I had every right to stand in that reality of I'm going to an Ivy League school this year and I'm not going to be in debt to do it. And as I'm thumbing through, I was like, okay, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing, GPS. You take me all the way out of state, through a tunnel, back, get on a plane, but we're going to end up at that destination. And so as I'm thumbing through, I found the University of Toronto, which was in Canada, which really was only 5 hours away from where I lived in Western Pennsylvania at the time. I was like, Canada. I never thought of that, going to school in Canada. Ooh, University of Toronto. It's an Ivy League school. It's one of the best schools in North America. Okay, I come home and I was talking to my mom about it, and I'm still crying because I don't know if this is going to work out. And miraculously, somehow, my mom calls them, talks to the admissions counselor to see, because I was just sobbing, and hands the phone to me and says, the admissions counselor wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. I get on the phone. In about a 15-minute conversation of just talking to this lady, she essentially admits me over the phone. Now, this is pretty much unheard of, even for the year 2000 when this happened. She admits me over the phone. I had never seen the school. I don't know how I did this. And then shortly thereafter, I pretty much made the decision on the phone right there. Okay, I'm doing this. Yes, this is the Ivy League school. The door just opened. Miraculously, then just a few weeks later, a family member of ours, an elderly family member, stepped up and handed my dad a check and said, I want to pay for Jessica's education. And at the time, the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Canadian dollar was really good. The US dollar was really strong. And so that check pretty much paid for my entire education, with the exception of, a little bit books, a little bit of room board. So this is how, I did this because there was no other version of myself that I was willing to be, right? When you test out, that's where the emotion comes from. That's why I was so upset, because I was being pulled by the 3D, by what it looked like was going to happen, by all the circumstances we're pointing to. This isn't going to happen for you, kid. But I stood when I tested standing at that destination and imagined myself standing in a different destination than the one that I really wanted in my heart, it didn't feel good. And I was like, no, that's not what's happening for me. And so you can do this too. Dare to put yourself first. This is the key. The key is remembering that all states of consciousness are there for you at all times. Everything is happening all at once. All of your potentials are true right now. And we follow these very predictable stories. Our minds are like, okay, and then this is going to happen, and then XYZ is going to happen, and then this is how we're going to get here. Dare to have breadth in your experience. Dare to jump from, one day I've been rejected in all ways, possible ways, this isn't working out, to, no, actually, this is happening for me. This is what's real for me. I'm not putting in my GPS any other destination. That will not fly with me. That will not fly. That's not who I am. So, dare to put yourself first. This is how you do it. Drop a comment below. I'd love to engage with you. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Bye.